Welcome back, I'm Ryan from Bluewood Gaming, and today I'm going over my thoughts on LEGO Marvel Super Heroes 2. Now, before we get into this, I'm aware that I'm 3 months late on this video, but I was busy during that time, and this is the first time that I've actually been able to sit down and play through it, and here we are giving my thoughts on it. So, something else going through this, I'm going to be making some comparisons to the original LEGO Marvel Super Heroes. You don't need to play that game to play this one and understand this one, but I will be giving some comparisons to the original one just for people that did play the original LEGO Marvel Super Heroes. So let's start off by talking about the campaign, because this is actually one of the high points of this. In the original LEGO Marvel Super Heroes, I wasn't exactly pulled in by the campaign all that much. It was more the side activities and just unlocking characters that I enjoyed. But in this one, the campaign is thoroughly enjoyable, and I think that it's a huge upgrade from the first game. Essentially, what's going on is Kang is trying to take over the universe, and not only just right now's universe, but every time and every version of the universe. He took several different times and several different versions of the universe to kind of put them all together so that he can rule that special place that he likes to call Chronopolis, which is the open world that you play as in this. And this leads to some kind of interesting character choices that you get to play as and different places that you actually get to go, which I will talk about right now. The first thing they'll go over is the character choices, because this is a wildly different roster than they had in the original game. I would suspect that only about half the characters actually make a return, and there are different versions of these characters that you get to play as this time around. I remember specifically in the first one, we got to play as like 7 or 8 different versions of Tony Stark. In this one, we get 3. But they do make it up in other places. It's not like this character list is lacking. We get to play a bunch of kind of new characters that we haven't played in the first one, such as Gwenpool. There is the Jane Foster Thor. They expanded the symbiotes, which is my personal favorite. We have things like Agent Venom, and then there's just a bunch of other that I haven't really put much time with yet. But it is a lot of characters that you wouldn't exactly think of right off the bat for a game like this. And the reason why they work so well is because of all the different places that you're able to go in Chronopolis. Just to give an example of a few, you have regular Manhattan, which is where you get the Avengers from. You have Noir Manhattan, which is kind of a black and white version that has its own characters. There's a Wild West section. There's an Egypt section. I believe that there's a Planet Hulk section. But there's just a bunch of different sections that allow for these different characters. And you get to play through each of these different sections in the missions that you play with the campaign. Now, it isn't all great, though. I do have some personal complaints about both these sections. In the character roster section, we don't have any of the X-Men that we had in the original game. And there's just a few other picks here and there that I would have kind of liked to see, but the X-Men is the biggest exclusion from the character list. And then also, another personal thing, I liked the original map of Manhattan for the first LEGO Marvel Super Heroes. I like that a lot more than I liked this one. While this one is a bit more interesting with the variety of different locations, I found that no location is really big enough to draw you in for a long time, and some locations like the Wild West section and some of the other places I don't want to name are entirely too small for how long you would want to be in those sections. For the perfect example, Wakanda is a place that would be extremely interesting to run around for a long time. But you are shown such a small section of Wakanda in this game that you can actually see it all in about a 20-minute story mission towards the very beginning of the game, and there's nothing really else there to look at. So that's kind of why I preferred the original map, as even though Manhattan has been shown in so many different games, it just felt like a more cohesive map than the entirety of Chronopolis. Next, let's talk about the side missions, because these are what you're going to be doing outside of the story. So the side missions themselves are actually really enjoyable. They let you unlock some of the characters that just didn't fit into the story, but are still on the roster, so that was a pretty good way to introduce those. The other thing, though, is the challenges that go along with these side missions, as something else you're going to be doing outside of the campaign. The challenges are enjoyable, but forgettable. It's things like races and the different things that scatter around the map, and it's really kind of just busy work, but it's nothing that's so bad that it makes you not want to continue playing. I would just say take the challenges in bursts, but the side missions are thoroughly enjoyable to play through and see the different characters that couldn't make it into the actual story itself. So now, to finish off this video, I'm going to talk a bit about the challenge, because, well, this is a game designed for kids, but let's be honest, the main majority of people that are going to be playing this are adults. So this game is, it's both difficult and not too difficult. The puzzles can be quite specific at times without enough hints. So I have actually had to look up the answers to a few of the puzzles, but that doesn't happen all that often, and you can brute force your way through pretty much every single puzzle if you just give it long enough. And then combat is kind of easy. It's mostly just button mashing, but some enemies do require you to hit them in specific ways or with specific attacks to do more damage, and you do run the risk of dying as your character. Thankfully, though, if you're not very good at it and you do die often, the penalty for dying is not all that huge. You just lose a few thousand studs, which is nothing to be concerned about. You're going to get plenty as you just play through the game, and so losing a few thousand studs when you die isn't any sort of concern. So now that we've gone through pretty much everything, let's go into my final thoughts. This is a pretty easy one to recommend. If you are a Marvel fan, you're gonna like this game because of all the in-jokes and the stuff that Marvel fans are going to pick up on. If you liked the recent Marvel movies, you're going to like it because there's a lot of characters from those recent movies in this game. If you like the original one, then you're going to like this game as well, because it's just more of that. Pretty much the only person that's not going to like this game is going to be someone that played the original one and didn't like it, because it is more of the same. Or you're someone who just doesn't want to deal with all of the different things that you do in this game, because there is a bunch to do in this game. And then also, if you just despise puzzles of any time in games, then you're going to really, really hate this game, because this game is just filled with puzzles of varying difficulty. Like I said, you can brute force your way through it, but that does kind of get old after a while. So that is my thoughts on LEGO Marvel Super Heroes 2. As always, I'm Ryan from Blue Wood Gaming, and I'll see you guys in the next one.